Okay, so we have first abstraction, then misfortune, so karmic rope, then third was the respect, and they come in the order of importance. And then fourth one is something that it's called doshas in Vedic astrology. Elements, I would call it in Western. This is the elemental nature of a person. And again, from the manual, you'll see what there are three doshas. Vata, which means air. Well, I call them air. But I don't want to confuse you with the elements of the signs, with the water, air, earth, and fire, because this is different. This is the lunar constellation, and there are only three elements here. But it's Vata, Kapha, which corresponds to water in energy, and Pitta, which corresponds to fire. Or more properly, they're more like movement. Fire, Pitta, is not, it's fire, but more this is energy. Kapha is rest. It's like water rest. Is the state of rest. And Vata is the state of movement from one to the other. So they're not exactly elements, They're called doshas. And you want to see where your moon's nakshatra falls, in what of those doshas it falls. And you do not want your partner's moon constellation to be in the same dosha, in the same Vata, Kapha, or Pitta. Because then it becomes too much of this element, too much of this energy. For example, I still can give you from my example, because I don't remember them all from the top of my head. I always check them on my table. I have, and let's see what happens if they fall in the same element. And what happens if they fall in the same element? There is like too much of that energy. There is like a clash of that energy. And for example, someone who has both the nakshatra falls in Vata nakshatras, and you can see what all the Vata nakshatras are, the Kapha and the Pitta, then there will be too much air. And what is Vata? Is the movement, windiness, wind. So then there is instability emotionally, there is too much changeability, lack of stability. When you put one wind with another, turbulence. And then the ancient book says that the woman will suffer. The woman, because for some reason this is more felt by the woman. She feels less stable in the relationship, was less centered emotionally somehow. So this is, you definitely feel the discontent in the woman, And if there is too much water, Kapha, if there is both people have moon constellation, which is in water, then again the woman will suffer. How unfair, twice the woman. And imagine what happens. I have with my partner, my moon is in Magha, his moon is in Ashlesha, so they're both water, Kapha elements. And what happens is too much emotionalism. They make out of everything too much of an emotional matter. And it's usually the woman that feels it. And I can totally tell you this is so true. It feels like the smallest thing I can start crying for. I can start getting totally bogged down in emotionalism. And usually when there is too much water, the woman feels more tired. Physically as well. When they sleep together, it's nothing that can be done about it. This can be only handled by knowing it. And when there's too much, when there is both a watery, it's good for these two people to sleep sometimes in different rooms, because every time that my partner travels a lot, but every time we stay together for 5-6 days, sleep in the same room, and I immediately start sleeping 10 hours more, like instead of 6-7 hours, I start sleeping 2-3 hours more. When I'm away from my partner, there is not too much water, then our energies don't become too watery, so I'm not so emotional, I'm not so, because Kapha is rest. Remember, Kapha is rest, the state of rest. So I have more energy. There is not too much of Kapha. I don't feel so tired. I can wake up early. I feel more energized, less emotional, And it's, what you can do is occasionally, spend the night away sleeping from the partner in a different room. or just be aware that you become more emotional, your reactions become more emotional when you are. And the woman feels it. The man, it doesn't affect him so much. When he'll still get more emotional, but this affects the woman's energy. What happens if both nakshatras, lunar constellations, fall in a fire, in a pitta dosha? They're both pitta element. Then the man suffers. Well, at least for once, the man, they should suffer. Because pitta is fire. With fire, what happens? These people argue a lot. There is a lot of dramatism there. There is a lot of arguments and, what happens when there is too much fire? There is too much tension and they get too angry. So then usually the man feels it. The man, the man, this is the man's energy, the fiery energy. It takes over and the man might get too aggravated, too upset, too irrational. But for the other two, when there is wind, too much wind or too much rest, water, kapha, the woman, because she's more emotional being, she suffers more. And you want one nakshatra to be pitta, the other is vata, or one's kapha, the other vata, or one's kapha, the other pitta, whatever, a mixture of the three. But when they're both in the same element, it's kind of, again, there is a sense of instability here, too much wind. The woman feels it. There is a sense of too much emotionalism. The woman feels it, and tiredness. There is a sense of too much restlessness here. The man feels it, too much anger, So this is, and the vata is also like, because it's movement, there is a lot of restlessness there. Kind of sometimes it can be a bit dryness and coolness as well. And the woman feels it, and the woman suffers. But this is the fourth blemish, if it's present, and if it's not present, it's a big boon. The elements of the people work well together, and there is nothing they can do. They just can be aware of it. This can cause kind of serious problems in relationship. But if there is no obstructions or misfortunes, it can be overcome. People can work with that. Big deal that I feel more like sleeping when I'm around my partner, or that my partner gets more angry, sometimes. If it doesn't happen so often, if there is no misfortunes, okay, he gets angry and more agitated, it's okay, it's masculine energy. But if there is misfortunes, he gets challenged to get angry all the time, every 2-3 weeks, and that becomes too much, Or if there is respect as well, they can compensate if in case there is that doshas is wrong, But you don't want. But if you see, for example, one of those four, two of those present, oh my God! Like you have to really warn the partner that it's going to be such a difficult relationship. I have two of those, but the other two are good. But still, if a person has to go through such a relationship, they will go. All you can do as a consultant, as an advisor, is tell them what they can do to alleviate. Tell them how the energies work so they understand it, so they don't blame themselves. For example, I used to feel so bad, like why am I become so lazy when I'm with him, like I become so tired in a sense oftentimes, like I've become too emotional, and I used to think that I'm just not being, that I'm not putting enough willpower into not being like that I'm being weak. And then when I learned this, I realized, well, there's nothing I can do. This is how our energies work. That's why I get so emotional around him, Or when a man is with Pitta, he would feel it and he'll say, why do I get so angry around her? Why does she aggravate me much more faster than anyone else, Or a woman, when there is Vata, why do I feel so, like, unstable, restless? And when you know this, you accept it. And then when there is acceptance, there is awareness. And again, you can do it's good that people spend sometimes apart from time to time, so they regenerate, that they have other friends or interests, or where they can spend a bit of time away, so they can regenerate the energy through other people who have different energy dosha than them, so they can bring back and build up the energy again. So this is what you can advise for such people, for them to be aware, not to make too much of an issue about it. And maybe sometimes, just give themselves a bit of space, maybe spend a bit of time, have a bit more separate, not too involved. If they're constantly all the time together, there is too much water, too much wind, too much fire. But usually, very few people are constantly all the time together because, what kind of life is that? Maybe with perfect compatibility, yeah, but Okay, thank you.